Can we kick this pod off with the fact that I am in love with my blue light glasses?
Welcome to the dark side.
These are incredible. If you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube and check us out right now. Mine are orange, Phil's are yellow, but these things are an absolute game changer. You've had them for a while, and I asked about them, and finally I got them in my stocking this year, and I'm sleeping better. I can't even, the world doesn't even look the same when I take them off. It's super bright. It's crazy. It's amazing.
We get a sponsorship before we go on too much, but a lot of people say they're overrated. I disagree, but even if it's placebo, we take what works, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when we're looking at screens all day, I know I'm looking at screens quite a bit, and these small fonts and different things like that, like squinting. I mean, I got bad eyes anyway, but these are a game changer. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for introducing to them. And we look freaking awesome. Kind of like, I think it's a new look for us. But
we'll leave that to the viewers.
The topic of our podcast today, we're going to kind of continue on with our mini series here, our Japanese theme, and a couple of concepts that we know about, are familiar to me. I think you're more well-versed in this stuff than I am, but like Kaizen and Ikigai and doing some research on those. And there's actually 7 Japanese concepts that counter laziness. And so I think it'd be cool to just kind of talk through those, go through the 7, maybe you kick us off with the first one, which is Kaizen, and then, share what we know about them. I'm going to probably be the one to ask you a little more questions. I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about this, but I think as you read through them, you're like, oh yeah, I can relate to this. This is what this looks like in my world or, business world or whatever. So I think it'd be a good one.
I agree. And I think it's awesome because we've been talking about doing this mini series, just again, back to the strong interest that I have had in Japan and culturally how disciplined and intentional they are as a nation. And these are old concepts. These are timeless, evergreen. And what's been interesting is seeing it come top of light. I knew of all of these concepts from other readings, podcasts, etc. But there's been a interesting way to frame this up I just noticed it on social. You follow enough kind of mindset and self-help, some of those automated pages. And I saw the same one coming across because everyone copies each other and it's combined them. And the tagline or the hook for all of it has been the Japanese perceive laziness as a disease, not like a moral flaw or a character flaw. This person's lazy because they're a bad person or they have a flaw in their character. They're like, no, you're sick and there's a way to heal it. And they put these concepts together. Now, whether that's true, I cannot verify, but I do know that there is some ageless wisdom in these. And kicking off with the one that I think most listeners will be familiar with, and we're going to do our best not to botch the Japanese pronunciation, but the first one is Kaizen. And Kaizen is quite simply the art of small, consistent improvements. So thinking compound interest, the little things we do each day at a time. Toyota really popularized this in the automotive industry. They took this as their company mission in regard to building the automobile. There's a reason I'm a big Toyota fan as well, because they've over-engineered their vehicles. And the reason they've done this is making these small tweaks to each area of the automobile, as well as the cost effectiveness of each part and the process of putting them together. It's why Toyotas are so reliable. Really popularized this in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. 1% better is small enough to bypass resistance. Small chunks, breaking things down. This is really fundamental. And momentum beats willpower. The momentum of these small, consistent climbs creates a system that allows you to compound quietly over time.
Yeah, I love the Toyota example. My wife has a 4Runner, loves that thing, and those things go forever. They're well made. But it reminds me of the ice cube analogy that James Clear said in Atomic Habits. You got an ice cube sitting on a table, and it's frozen, and so you're at 30 degrees. It's going to stay frozen if it's 30 degrees in the room. You raise it to 31, you're not going to see any change. It's going to stay frozen. You raise it to 32. Raise the temperature to 32. It's not going to change, stay frozen. But once you start raising it to 33, 34, 35, and you start raising that 1 degree, over time, you're going to start seeing the ice cube change. It'll start to melt. And so the analogy is you may not see those 1%ers, but when you put in the 1%ers every day, you're going to see it a month later or a quarter later or a year later. And so that just reminds me of that analogy and all the other things that we strive for, like discipline and consistency. You don't make change or heal overnight, and it takes time, and I think you can find solace and peace in knowing that you don't have to do it all at once. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for most people, is you're like, I gotta fix this problem right now. And you don't. So that was a good description of Kaizen. Thank you, sir. All right. The next one, number 2, Ikigai. All right. So I like this one because there's a visual, there's a graph, which we'll pop it up here. It's kind of like a Venn diagram, but it's like all encompassing, right? It's like the purpose of why you're here, or what you're doing. And like, it kind of looks at everything. Like, it looks at what you love. It looks at what the world needs. It looks at what you can be paid for. And it looks at what you're good at, as like 4 circles, right? And then you look at like your passions, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. And you find the middle in between all of those things. And that's what creates a blissful life. It kind of gets you out of that laziness, because it's, you hear the concept, and, when you're having fun, you never have to work a day in your life, right? Like when you enjoy what you do. And so that kind of reminds me of, going back to like, okay, what are the things that I really love to do? What are the things that I'm passionate about? But more so than passion, like that's exciting, and it kind of gets the juices flowing. But what are the things that the world needs, and what's the impact that I can make? And what do I love doing? It's kind of like the MTP, the North Star, and it's finding alignment there. And that's what this is all about, is finding alignment when things are clear, why it's clear. Effort just feels lighter. You just are in flow, and you're just on the path, and things don't seem challenging. And when obstacles come your way, okay, you deal with them along the way, but it's not going to derail you. So I like the Venn diagram. Obviously, burnout comes from misalignment. It doesn't mean you're lazy. You're grinding it out and whatnot. But when you have this path and you have this defined, and you kind of jot these things down, which we'll get to, that's another principle later on, you have clarity, and that's what really matters. And so Ikigai is the reason for being.
I couldn't agree more. Moving on to number 3, is a really good one. Again, I didn't know the actual Japanese term for this until doing the review, but it's Harahachibu. And this concept, the way it was first portrayed to me, was specifically for eating. So definitely a tough one. And I think about this, the mind-body connection, but in a nutshell, thinking about the concept of food, and we'll talk about other use cases, but eating until you're 80% full and then stopping. Now, there's neuroscience that backs this up in stating it takes your brain a little time to register that you're full. So if you have an idea, you're getting full, and try to get around that 80% mark, the Japanese say stop eating then. And they're very in tune with that feeling. And that allows them to digest better, prevents overconsumption of food, and keeps their energy levels high. This, again, tying this back to laziness, it's going to make you less lethargic if you're in a somewhat of a calorie deficit, or just eating just enough, right? In that right amount. Now, if we transition that into work, Ernest Hemingway, again, this is an example that I just kind of was connecting dots to. A lot, and other writers often said they would never stop writing when they were out of ideas and stretching and back to a writer's block. When they were in a good flow of something, they try to find what I'm guessing was around that 80% when they were still in flow, when they had some momentum. So that next day, they could pick up where they left off with some of that momentum. Like they were off to the races. Oh, I remember where I was at. Jump back into that. And you have, again, that energy and momentum of stopping at that 80%. I think about it, tying out your workday, hard, firm stop, saving that 20% to get the next day lined up, and then log it off so we can start that recovery process again, trying to maintain that energy. Another a great concept is these days scrolling. I know I find myself getting into a concept or something I'm super interested about, and I'm sucked in. Can we have the mind-body awareness to stop that scrolling before it gets out of hand? And now we're past that 100%, and we're just off to the races, endlessly consuming. So from a consumption standpoint, stop when you're around 80% and just start to get that feel of what that might be in these different areas.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's the risk of going all the way sometimes is if you get to the 80%, you're not going to risk going above the 100%, the capacity and the burnout and all that stuff. And especially with food, I mean, that's a great one to talk about. I mean, we indulge in so much. And how good do you feel when you do stop right before you're full, and then like 20 minutes later or even 15 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm full. Like I don't need any more. You just stop. It's almost like it's incredible. And
The
it's hard
other
to do.
a little side caveat, but to what you just mentioned, it's also for me the speed of eating. There's also a concept, I think it was Gandhi, that said that you should drink your food and chew your water,
Oh, that's
something
so
like that.
bad. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever
No,
tried that?
well, you have to chew. Yeah, you chew like
until it's like
50
slimy or
chew
something.
50 times. But yeah, but your saliva is what activates your digestion, and that's a whole tangent.
Yes.
But something I have to work on. But Paul and I both will call each other out and be like, all right, let's be intentional, be
Yeah.
present with food, present with each other. But coming from the Midwest, and my dad had 7 siblings, we just got into this deep ingrained pattern of eating fast. We weren't fighting for food, but he did when he was younger. So we just had this thing of meals sit down. It would drive my mother nuts. And so this eating slowly and really being present, tough coming from the Midwest. My Midwest folks, if you don't finish your plate, it's an insult. So it's like regraining that food has a purpose, food is fuel, and being intentional with it. All right, tangent over.
That was good. All right, number 4. All right, I'm gonna try Seiri and Seiton. I don't know if that's good. Seiri and Seiton.
Seiri and Seiton. That sounds like a band.
Oh my gosh!
Sounds like a band.
Seiri and Seiton. So forgive me if you know how to enunciate or pronounce that. I do not apparently, but it basically what it means is like sort and order, and it's just being organized and decluttering and being a little bit more of a minimalist. Not only with like physical things like decluttering your desk or your house, like think of like spring cleaning or cleaning out your garage, but also decluttering your habits and the things that aren't serving you, and decluttering your decisions. Like how many decisions are you constantly making? We had a really cool stat in go listen to episode, I think it was 92 back, decision fatigue, and it was actually our most listened to episode last year. And we get hit with so many choices throughout the day, and there's so many decisions we have to make, and it takes a toll to the point where you're at exhaustion. And so we trying to eliminate those, and so you find out the things that aren't serving you and you eliminate them. Like it is sounds simple, not easy, but you've got to figure out a way of what's not serving you, what's bogging you down, writing those things down, and then eliminating them. So, saying no to commitments that drain you, letting go of outdated goals and identities. Like if you've set a goal 2 years ago and it no longer serves you, like don't hang that over your head that you still need to complete that goal. Like just move on, create a new goal, like pivot and learn, and, but don't try and attack that if it doesn't make sense for your life anymore. But you can't optimize what you refuse to eliminate. And so I think this is a really good one when you talk about mindset and what you're trying to strive for. I mean, there's a lot of chaos in this world, and you put too much on your plate, and it's like you're Gumby just being stretched too thin. And then you start, then you become even more lazy, because it's like if you're doing too much, you're not really doing anything at all. And so now it's like, okay, well, I want to just be really great at these 4, 5, 6 things. I don't want to just be good at these 25 things. And so I think that's where that concept comes from.
Love it. It's a perfect transition into number 5, which I don't know, I love almost all of these, but I think number 5 is my favorite. And it's because it's, again, something we can visualize. So number 5 is Kintsugi, but taking something from a physical concept and bringing it into our personalities and our mind and body as a mindset. So Kintsugi, we may be able to flash up an image here. This concept comes from pottery or vases that may have been broken. And of course, in this consumption economy that we live in, we typically just throw it away and buy something new. The Japanese with Kintsugi, and this has become a complete art form, would not only put these items back together, and you picture a vase put back together, but the cracks, they would make gold. They would seal them with a gold lining. So you could see that this was broken, but they were able to repair it, put it back together. Not only that, it's more beautiful than when before it was broken. And I think that this applies so well to us as humans in regard to our failures, our flaws, what we've done in the past. And shame can keep us down we can try to suppress it in the concept of throwing it away, or we can view them as, oh, look, I fixed this. And not only did I fix it, it's stronger and it's made me a more beautiful person, putting the gold lining or silver lining on it to improve for the future. So it's kind of self-compassion, right? Can we take our flaws, put some gold on them with intention, and strive to be better in the future? That's Kintsugi.
Number 6, Shinrin-yoku. This is right up your alley, dude. It's right up mine too. It's right up my sister's alley. This is like what she does all the time. But it's immersing yourself in nature purposefully, slowly, and intentionally without an agenda. So basically, you are not just hiking, you're not exercising, you're just present. You're just outside, present in nature, no distraction, which I have experienced the intense positive effects from that when you really immerse yourself into it. So I wholeheartedly believe in this concept, especially when you think about when you're going through something and you just need that escape. You're not going to typically find it in your home or in your office or whatever. Like you need to get outside and you need to find some spot. It could just be a park. It could be somewhere. But I think what this one's talking about is like spending some time as a practice, a health practice, to get outside and be within nature without distraction. And it works because it lowers the stress hormone. It just like you put your feet on the ground barefoot without shoes and you just feel the earth. Like everything changes. You don't even know how to fully describe it, but the energy shifts. And it's definitely a great concept and something that, is part of the maintenance protocol and keeping up with the stresses of what life brings.
Such an underrated tool. And also it's just so difficult to work it in living in the environment that we live in. Yeah. Like it takes time and effort to go have no effort in nature. And I just love this one because it's hard to measure, but you know the difference if you've gone out and unplugged and really just let things reset.
Dude, if you just like, let me give you an example. Okay, so we went to New York last summer and you're in the concrete jungle. It's like, it's busy, horns are honking, steam's coming from the sewers, like the real deal from the movies. It was my first time to New York. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was exactly what I would expect. Like exactly how you see it in the movies, exactly how it is. Loud, busy, noisy. And then you go to Central Park and you understand why Central Park is there. Because if it wasn't there, it'd be too much. It'd be too chaotic. But people go there and they run and they exercise and do their things, but it's quiet. That you can hear the breeze through the trees. You can't see a single building. The park is massive and it's covered by all these massive trees. And it just reminds me of that has to be a daily practice if you're a New Yorker, minimum a couple times a week, because you have nothing, especially with their lifestyle. Most of them are living in the city in these tiny little places. Not like us here in Arizona where we've got backyards and room to kind of walk around in our homes. Also, it's like a tiny, apartment, and then they're going to work in the office, and then you got Central Park, and it's just a wide open space. Shinrin-yoku to the max for sure for the New Yorkers. It was awesome.
Get outside, listeners. Go do it. Book something without being booked. If that makes sense.
No agenda.
No agenda. Rounding out number 7. I love this, especially over the last couple of years, getting into jiu-jitsu. I'm still in that white belt mode due to inconsistency, but Shoshin. And this is, I think of it as the white belt mindset, which in jiu-jitsu, even the guys that are at brown and black still keep this mindset because you've never made it. So it's beginner's mind. Bruce Lee talked about this a lot. You have to have an empty cup for it to be filled. And it's about curiosity over mastery. Yes, we're working toward mastery. We want to be, I know myself, I want wisdom, but you only gain wisdom by having an open awareness to learn. And so it's a pretty straightforward one. When you're learning and you're early and you think about being a child, open to the concepts of life that you're open to, you're playing, you're really a sponge. And that's Shoshin. Getting into learning mode, it unlocks the pressure of being an expert, of being a master, and allows you to just be more free and learn and adjust and try things out. And just keeping that Shoshin, I think, is something you and I are always trying to do as we're trying to pass along this information to our beloved listeners.
Yeah, dude, I think, thank you for bringing this topic to the top. I'm really enjoying this mini series. I'm learning a lot. It's new stuff for me, but these are not new for you. I mean, these are concepts and things you've been working on and studying for years, which helps with your performance and energy clients and things that you're working with. Like, talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you incorporate, like, we just went through these principles, but how do you actually incorporate these into your life? What does that look like?
Dude, it's so funny you asked me that question because when I was thinking we were going to stop recording and was going to bring this up this week. So I think I talked on our Christmas list episode about how I didn't engage a coach last year. Obviously, I have my coaches within corporate. We have our masterminds that is a form of coaching. But I was trying to use my concepts on subconscious performance and self-hypnosis and AI, I'm not going to lie, to work on myself last year. And that was one of the key gaps I identified in my year-end review. So this week, taking action, I reached out to one of my old hypnotists, not Dom, who came on, actually a different hypnotist. And his session just brought back the concept of what you're experiencing in the weightlifting. I would put this to your physical training and how far you've come. That ability to put control back and faith in someone else to guide me. Mm-hmm. I came up with so many new things, was able to go a little bit deeper, and that Shoshin, that's many of these concepts coming into play. It was super impactful. Like this happened on Tuesday, and the last 2 days I just noticed clearing that happened, realignment, and I think that it's really energized me to close out not only this week, but the way to start the year. How about you?
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to be the one that's like trying to I'm not going to say always, recently focused on the little improvements and like where I want to go. The reason why I used to fail at so many big goals is because I would be the guy that would try and do it all at once. And it was like, the only reason I'm going to ever work out is if I sign up for a race and then I run and I train and then I sign up and I do the race and I PR it, like I perform well, but then there's nothing left to look forward to. So now I don't run anymore. Right. And then I'd be, oh, I got to sign up for another race, and it'd be like a year later. So there's like really no gain. Like there's no consistency. There's no gain in that. And so 3 years ago, I made the decision to hire a trainer and someone to hold me accountable to week in and week out, minimum twice a week. And it's allowed me to just build the foundation. So now I'm, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week now. We're on 3 on my own, 2 or 3 on my own, and at least minimum, no matter what, if I'm not feeling it that week, I get at least 2. And that has changed, like just how I, able to play hoops and just how I'm able with my kids and my family. Same thing with changing my relationship with alcohol, like all of it, right? Like it wasn't cold turkey forever. It was, let me just change a relationship here and kind of refocus on the things that aren't serving me. And that used to be putting down a 12-pack on a Sunday watching the Vikings game. And so those things are long gone. It's just not even on my radar anymore. So I think I've applied these principles more so in the last couple of years, but I think it's really just an awareness piece. Like but when we were younger, like it's kind of just what we saw growing up. I don't know about you, but it's just kind of like, it's what we saw, like uncles, parents, everyone did things, and it's kind of what you build your life from. And I think that's the hard part, is it takes some
unlearning.
Yeah. It takes people a longer time maybe to kind of pick some of this stuff up, but you just learn a lot about yourself. I think it starts happening for most, I would think, in the mid 30s, maybe later, maybe it's mid 40s, but for me, it was mid 30s. And I started thinking about, what does the rest of my life look like? And you have that awareness. You're like, okay, I need to start dialing this back. Now you start putting some labels on it with these types of principles and all that. And you're like, oh yeah, that's what this is. And so it's kind of cool to reflect back and see some of these things and know that you're, on the track.
Well, I'm loving this, loving you jumping into some of these Japanese concepts. And I know it's not necessarily Japan, but we're sticking with the Far East for an upcoming episode, which we're looking forward to relaying. More to come there. But go down the rabbit hole, check out some of these concepts, and let us know what you're feeling. We'll be back at you next week.